Oh, babies, I remembered, and I remember it well, man. Way in the way back when, if not too long ago. Well, somewhere there in the 1990s, don't you know, getting in the flow. There was an 11:11, a gateway to heaven that day, let me tell you. A fracture in the reality, and I began to see beyond it. Even more greater than I had before, because I was beginning. Wow, a journey that would take me everywhere, expand my heart incredibly, and bring me back home again in a singular lifetime. And there I was in my early 40s, beginning to experience that. It was early in the day. We're way out on this remote ranch, tucked way back in the mountains between Oregon and California, don't you know? These mountains known as the Siskiyous, man. Hidden away from just about everybody and everything out there, man. 18 miles from the nearest telephone. And that was luxury, don't you know. 50 miles to the grocery store, etc., man. It was a crazy place to be in, but oh, there was a sweetness in it. You'd walk out in the morning and the coyotes would be singing, and there would be a mountain lion down on the creek below would howl, let you know he was on the prowl, and just be careful, don't you know. And, you know, we all kind of coalesced and collated and got along out there, man. What a beautiful place to be in, you know. And I had this great horse called Stormy. Tricky as could be, man, when we first began our experience together. And it took us 2 years to really get it right, but we got it right. Beautiful experience, I tell you. But there was this morning, you know, the old lady, and I had an old lady then back in the old buckaroo days, man, I'm telling you, you know. Of course, you know, and then I had a couple of other old ladies, too, that would come and go, and, you know, neighbors, though, you know, well, anyway. We're always been a family flow here, this old Coyote Medicine Show, don't you know. Couldn't just relegate ourselves to a singular presence of being in person of one other, you know, had to be a few others. Greedy little shit, I guess. But way out there in the middle of nowhere, what a great place to experience paradise in the arms of another as well as a good friend. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? It was awesome, man. And you were out there, and, you know, other than the wildlife to live with you, man, it was pretty much privacy. You could do what you wanted, be what you wanted, act the way you want. Ain't nobody there to judge you, you know. I mean, does a tree hear itself falling, or you got to be there to make the noise happen, man, you know. I mean, shoot, it's like that, you know. But it's kind of natural. When you live in remote places like that, it's a bit of a ruggedy existence, you know. You have to kind of grunt down to get along. There's a lot of little emergencies that come along, and you got to learn to fix and repair. You know, you got to be real handy with just about everything, from pipelines to underwear. You know, I mean, you just got to know when you got to be on the go, and you got to be able to patch it up with duct tape and baling wire and shit like that, and just get on. Oh, and old inner tubes too. Yeah, those are handy things. You know, you have to, you know, be the rancher, man. So it's not exactly an easy existence, but for me, it's a cruise, man. I've been out there in the business world for so long that enough is enough, and boy, this is just what I needed, man. So the medicine was coming to me there big time. And me and the old lady, after partying all night long, decided we'd take a little walk in the early morning, you know, before dawn, man. It was still dark out there, but the morning star was up and just a shining bright. Oh, my God, what a night. Gorgeous morning, man. The dew on the grass, you know. Hell, it was probably November, but it wasn't that bad out there, man. Like 45, 50 degrees, you know. If you just suited up a wee bit, you know. Oh, my goodness. And when the air was so fresh and clear out there, I mean, wasn't any of this chemtrail shit in the air. You know, everything. And pollution, well, we got some off the west coast, but we didn't even see it, man. We didn't even know it was there. All you could smell was clear, fresh air, you know. And it's just invigorating to be out there in the early morning and feel the energy of life coming back to awakening again as the presence of the sun makes itself known. You can feel it long before you begin to see it. Even before that blue haze breaks across the horizon on the east. Even before that, you can feel the sun coming back, you know. And your old heart's just flowing with that. It's fulfilled with the promise of a new day already, man. It's really getting it underway. So me and the old lady walked down from the house maybe a mile or so along the road, just casual, just soaking up the energy of the morning, man, and hearing the loons cry over there on the creek. Boy, that's a haunting cry, but just so poetic, so perfect in those kind of moments, man. Those loons are amazing, you know. I hope you live in a place where you can hear them once in a while. We don't get them out here in the Rocky Mountain High. They were over there in Oregon, man. Whew. Couldn't fly this high, I guess. So that was about elevation 2,500 feet there, you know. But the sky's clear as a bell, man. You could even see the northern lights as far south as we were once in a while, man. But that's the only light pollution you had out there. And that was rare and occasional, you see. It was really, you know, like living in your own reality, having your own little slice of the whole universe and being able to live there just privately, you know, and just poetically too, boy. And it gave you a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to move and awaken. So I challenged myself in those days with an illness that was going to take me down. But it brought me back to life, and because it brought me all these regenerative moments, I had to get up and run with life instead of just hang around and try to be life, you know. Had to fulfill my idealism, that motion of heart I'd always carried. It was time to wake up and get it in motion, you know. Finally, they were starting to turn me loose, and finally I was starting to allow myself to be loosened in this reality, because, boy, I'd been in some uptight places a few years before that, let me tell you. You go through all kinds of hell getting to a gracious place, you know. Highway to hell leads right into paradise, man, but you got to get there first, man. You got to get through it, you know. And there can be earthquakes and tornadoes and, you know, bank robbers and all kinds of hairy shit out there on the highway of life, man, you know. Let alone all the looting and raping and pillaging and mad deception that goes on out there. And not to mention the irregularity of law enforcement and how criminal they can be. I mean, you know, shit, the whole reality is kind of crazy, eh? But that hell ripens us right into this paradise, man, and all that antagonism lives there just so we can learn to get past all that shit, you know. You got to fall into it before you can really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we've done it rather gracefully and done a good job of it, baby, so congratulations on that. So me and the old lady, we go about a mile down from the house there in that beautiful, crystalline, clear morning with all that fresh air around us. You ought to see the water out there. It's clear and cold. And those creeks out there, man, 38 degrees and just clear as a bell, man. Whew. Boy, you talk about a refreshing dip, but only in the summer. Stay the hell away from it any other time of the year. It's cold. You don't stay in for long, but oh, God, it's fun. But anywho, we find us a little grassy place there, you know, we're on a little knoll where we can lay there and got a clear view of the sky and just lay back to watch the morning break, you know. And as we do, I mean, we're just kind of hand in hand, you know. And as we do, we're like, I feel this rumble coming from the sky. You can feel it in the earth too, but it's coming from the sky, you know. And I look up, and there's like this golden light kind of flowing in this one section of the sky, southwestern sky as I could see it. From there anyway, who knows what really it was in the multi-dimensional way. But there it was, open in its golden glow, all this glittery goldy stuff coming through the sky, you know, and starting to form kind of a jaggedy line. And the rumble then was that jaggedy line opening up, you know. And there was another paradigm, there was another reality beyond that when you could feel it pulling you. You could feel the suggestion of it, that maybe you want to go there. And I thought, well, not right now, you know. But it was interesting. It was like an amazing experience because it's like a fracture in the reality. It's like, you know, it really was, we were living in a dream world and the reality was just beyond it. And through those fractures, we could see little glimmers of it, you know. But I knew I still had a journey here. I knew I couldn't go there just yet. It wasn't time, you know. But I sure felt it, man. And I started remembering, and I got a little inkling of home, of what it really was and how it felt to be there. You know, starting to rekindle that flame inside of myself, you know, because even the most sincere and noble of beings can fall pretty hard in this life. And I'd done it a number of times in really harsh ways, baby. But, you know, fortunately, I kept myself out of trouble with the law all that time. How about that? Other than a few speeding tickets here and there, and so forth. And of course I'd mouth off to cops every now and then. Couldn't help myself, you know. They were so blatantly unfair about things, and you know, we were just a bunch of po' boys out there trying to push them diesel cars up and down the road and deliver the freight, man. Cowboys, you know, riding our buckaroo, man, you know, and these guys just wanted to interfere with the process and slow us down, take lots of money from us for chicken shit little things, man. Oh, crybaby that I am. See, metaphors everywhere, baby. You live them, you know. Laying there on that grassy knoll, watching that sky divide itself. And with a deep rumble, too, boy. It's like somebody opening these big, gigantic, heavy doors on an underground bunker or something. It had that kind of feel to it. Rumble, 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 you know. And then there was this glow, this soft glow, and it really felt right, you know. I knew I could go home that way, but I didn't want to go that way. I knew it wasn't time, babies. It couldn't be, you know. But, oh, God, I felt some relief then. I knew then that this really, I mean, you know, I couldn't quite admit it to myself, but I knew this was a dream. I knew then that the reality was something that dream I carried was a reality. I started to understand that. Started to catch on to how it really worked. And this made me a magic man. Because as I began to heal within myself and this illness dissipated from myself, with a lot of assistance from divine angels in both human and otherwise form. Amazing how you can live in such a remote place, so separate from the reality around you, yet be so much a part of it, and you find just what you need, just when you need it. I mean, synchronicity lives, and boy, it was magic in those days. Still is. Been magic ever since. I started to understand the flow. And while I didn't always feel like I lived in it, I always did. You know, don't you know? I think if you look back on yours, you'll see the same synchronicity. It's amazing how it really and truthfully works. Some of the harshest moments are some of your brightest moments. That's when you really find the resilience in your guts, let alone your heart. And you can keep on trucking when other people be so destroyed by whatever you just went through that they never come back here again. They would be done with it, you know. It's too much for any human being to have to endure. You know, and, you know, I'm not a crybaby, but it was a lot, man. There were some pretty hard crashes in this reality, and boy, I've been down so many times, I thought I'd drowned myself in the muck, you know. Well, and I did a few times, but boy, like I say, that's when you start to find your grit. You know, if I hadn't gone to such hard and depressing places, I wouldn't have compassion for the bulk of humanity like I do, because I know the gritty side of it, you know. And my ride was a whole lot softer than many people I know. You don't have to look far to find somebody that has it worse than yourself, man, by a long shot. But these are noble souls. They're meant to carry that kind of load just like you. You got what you could deal with. That's it. That's what you flow with. And maybe sometimes it drove you over the edge. Well, you needed to be over the edge to find out that it was really there. And what a relief when you finally come back and bring all that magic with you, you see. You start to realize things like that in divine moments of revelation like the one I just described back there in the old ranch in southern Oregon, man. What a rockin' good reality this is, you know, and how righteous it has been to me as a person. And how loving, too, man. You know, in my moments of despair was when I felt the greatest love. And coming from nowhere, man, you know, but everywhere around me, man. You know, and it gave me the strength to carry on, you know. Through some pretty hard times, some pretty wild rides. You know, when you're a searcher and a seeker, and you're as motivated as I was, and so tormented as a child, baby, you got a load. You got a lot to deal with, and you're going to act it out in life all over the place. And thank God you never really became a criminal about it, because you sure could have. That potential was there. But you kept your nose clean, you kept yourself bright, kept yourself running despite all the bullshit, you know. There was magic in the air all the time, and you knew it. You have this burning fire inside that will never let you go. From that dream, that presence of a reality you know. It's real as all get out. And then comes experiences, you know, openings, gateways, man, like 11:11 today. This is what I'm describing. You know, and Mary Jane was another opening in my life. A great one, too, man. That's when my mind finally come unstuck in this fixed-ass time thing, you know. And I began to expand beyond it. She gave me the excuse to do it. She softened me up enough to let me see it. Because believe you me, I was dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety inside of my tormented soul back in those younger days of mine. I'm telling you, I had gray hair in my temples when I was 18, man. Started to go bald when I was 19. Time I was like 30-something, I had white hair, man, 38 or so. White hair. Of course, I became a grandpa then, too. For real this time, man. It was awesome, but oh my God, what a ride, guys. You just wouldn't believe it, and it continues to be so. But the magic of moments like that live within me forever. They were turning points, not just for myself. I understood how this dynamic works, or I was starting to then anyway. You know, it's a uniform thing of what one experiences in one presence, others are doing in another presence, and it happens magically in uniformity, you know. It kind of works that way. So when one is going through their journey, another is too in another way, and it's poetically synchronistic and joined in harmony, though it might be the greatest variance in experience you could imagine. One person's in the hospital, and one person's in a plane that's fallen from the sky. I mean, just for contrast, you see. Yet they're going through the same experience, the same moment, in an energetic, conscious, present sort of way. And there's a richness in that moment, and that's when they find their grit. That's when they find their resourcefulness and the angels that save them. See, because when you open your heart, when you're really in that presence of death, then you start to understand what life is, and you know right in that moment whether you're ready or not. And if you're not, baby, you're going to get out of it. It ain't going to happen. Angel, the moment you open your heart and realize that, bam! And it happens in a millisecond. And there's the angels. But a millisecond can take 3 hours in moments like that. That's when you know time is an unreal thing. That it's just the way you see it that makes it what it is. You see, that's the demonstrable proof. So if you've been in those emergency places like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those that have been, you know, so-called near death or gone out of the body for a bit, you know what I'm talking about. Those that experience it with me right now, feel it. You know what I'm talking about. It's a memory, you know, it's a revival inside, an awakening. You know, we've been going through this step by step all along, man. You know, getting a little bit here and a little bit there. You know, moments like that I just described, that was a beginning of some real dynamic times of the exposure of truth in this reality in a very microcosmic sort of way, minuscule. One little human being going through a whole raft of divine experience in a trying sort of way, you know. Wasn't always gentle. You know, sometimes the impacts would just sweep you off your feet. It would take days to get back inside your body. Your person would be so expanded and you couldn't function in the 3D. Thank God I was in a place with a little flexibility and that I'd learned how to focus when there was an emergency and get things done so I wouldn't just slack off, you know. But I gave myself plenty of time to absorb the energy of that reality as it began to reveal itself to me. I remember another day, this was a bright blue and sunny day, I'd been bucking bales for a bit, and a little, you know, it was lunchtime, I was just taking a little siesta there against the post by the hay barn, you know, looking up in the sunny sky and just loving it, man. It was really deep blue that day. And there was this white fluffy bird flying my way, but its wings had a different motion than I'd ever seen in a bird. So I kind of focused in on it. It came right over my head. And by golly, if they wasn't there right in the 3D physically present, I swear, an angel, man, flying right over my head, man, in a white robe and all that stuff, white wings. That's what it looked like against that cobalt blue sky now. Take it for what it's worth. I know they're a little more, what do you call it, opaque than that, or what do you call it anyway? Kind of shimmery. Yeah, they're usually kind of shimmery because they don't exactly exist in this reality, yet they do. But there was one, man, and was flying as straight and true course as anything I'd ever seen. It had a very determined look on its face, you could see it, and it was going somewhere. And in a hurry, too, but, you know, not like warp speed, but at wing speed, you know. So it was an earth thing, some kind of earthbound thing going on. Probably one of my neighbors was having an emergency and needed a little help, and being there she comes, man, you know. You'll see stuff like that yourself now as your heart starts to open. That's all it takes, really. It's like the other day when I stepped out the door to look at the big old full moon going down in the west. and saw about 120 UFOs arising and dancing around the sky around old Luna out there. And that's beautiful, man, you know. But you got to have eyes to see it. You know, if your heart's open, your eyes are open. And you'll see beyond this reality. You'll see the multidimensional presence, or at least a little specter of it, a glimmer of it. And it'll grow from there, man. You know, it just blows you away when you start to realize, really, how much power you have to arrange this reality as a person. See, this is a functional presence in a personal way that's never been done before, baby. Not in this reality. But yet we've functioned in it for 1 billion years now, since those beginning days I described before. And look at what we've done here. Look at how far we've come here. Look at what we're doing with it now. And reward yourself for all of that. Say thank you, Divine Presence, for being there in those moments when I needed that revealing, when I needed to know it's real. You came and reassured me in sometimes the oddest sort of ways, as I'm falling out of the sky in an airplane. Good grief. You know, what a time to realize your life. But then you get it back. You catch it just right. You know, you rudder it in, you aileron it out, whatever you do there to get out of that flat spin, and suddenly you're gone again. Angels, baby, angels. I almost got an airliner up my ass one time, flying around in a little Cessna 152, man. You know, out there over the practice area in a legal sort of way. But these guys were in a bit of waverance, and so was I. I didn't have my radio on the right channel, so I didn't know they were coming, you know. And I'd been out there flipping around doing some practicing my steep turns and my 360s and things like that, you know. And, you know, I got a little woozy, because you do when you do all that heavy G work, you know. So then I just turned the old air in my face and straightened out. And I thought, well, I'll shoot myself down that little city down south there that I'm authorized to land in. And I'll go shoot a couple of touch and goes now, just get my breath back. And then I'll get back out here and do some more hammer down, because I'm trying to, you know, work hard at it and really get my flying sense back. And I was getting good at it, too. Ah, thank goodness. I had some magic impressions implanted in me already from a past life where I was piloting, you know, different sort of planes. But anyway, wow, there it was, you know, and it was functional, you know. And just after I'd leveled out and I got my air blown in my face and I'm just starting to settle, you know, a voice in my head says, "Look behind you, Coyote." And I did, and oh my God. Talk about your time-space distortion. There it is again, man. Oh my God. There was this tiny toy airliner coming 300 miles an hour, 250 up my ass. You know, a turboprop, about 30 passenger, one of those Fairchild things, you know. Wow. You know, commuter airline. Wow, man, you know. And, you know, it wasn't maybe, well, 500 feet from me, something like that. It was coming on fast, man. And I was right in its path. You know, it's coming right up my tailpipe, man. I'm telling you. You know, well, I didn't think about I'm going to die, you know, because it took on a different appearance. When you're in emergency moments, time and space distorts greatly. You know, I've been through a few of them, so I know that perception pretty well at times anyway. So this became a tiny toy airliner. Everything slowed down. And I did everything just perfect. I put that thing into a steep diving turn that really could have caused me some grief if I couldn't pull out of it, but I did. Thank goodness. But just as I flipped her up on her side and started to dive away, that's when I felt the rumble of those jet engines coming up through my seat. And I knew it, even though I couldn't see them because I'm ass again them, you know. There's no window on the bottom of the plane. So I couldn't see them, but I could sure feel it. That rumble coming up through my backside and tickling the hairs on you know what. Oh my God. It was close, babies. It was close. But see, there's the time-space distortion. There's the angelic presence. Keeps you calm in moments like that, when otherwise that could have been an awful disaster. And not one anybody wanted to cause or it was deliberate about whatsoever. Wasn't suicidal, a wish, or nothing like that. You know, just one of those chance encounters that probably should never happen, but do. And there it was. Of course, you know, and then a great benefit came from it by coincidence. It's the weirdest thing. It's my Magoo medicine, as I call it. Out of disasters comes really beautiful results. And it happens every time I've gone through a disaster. Every time. Especially that one. Because, see, that airport I was flying out of, it has a lot of fog and it has a lot of weird conditions there. And there have been a few accidents because of it. They didn't have any ground approach radar. And the federal government had been resistant for years to install it. And they didn't want us to be that sophisticated down there in that country place, you know. We were like bush pilots. We could handle that shit, right? So they'd been stalling forever to put that in. Well, when the FAA, which is the regulators over the aircrafts and the airways, when they got wind of this, which of course I had to go talk to them and everything. I mean, you know, it was an incident report. You know, I wasn't cited or nothing. I mean, they just understood it was just one of those things because by the lines and everything, I was where I should be, and the airplane was where it should be. We just coincidentally happened to be at the same place, same time, which wasn't cool. So, you know, it wasn't, but maybe 6 months later, they installed ground approach radar there at that little country airport. Well, they had regular commuter airline traffic there. Occasionally they'd have jets in and out too. So it wasn't like no small time thing, but it wasn't a big time thing at all. But it just had to have that because it had lots of sophisticated airline kind of traffic coming in and out of there, and it had to do it, you know, and thank goodness. And if it hadn't been for my little close call, that probably would have taken another 6 years and other people might have been hurt because of it, you know. So beautiful things happen out of some of the most disastrous moments. It's the cowboy way. It's learning how to ride that bronco a little more cooperative, to get in the flow with that bronco, don't you know? And even though it tried to buck you off, you hang on for dear life in a way that's magnetic. Your ass is glued to that horse's back and can't be removed. Not in any way. No matter which way that thing turns, and no matter what the motion on the ocean of that little pony's back, you're riding that sucker, and you're riding it out. And you're riding it down, too, to the point where you and that animal, this life you've been living, become one. One heart in motion. And then it's understood, and then you move with a singularity of purpose, intent, divine cooperation. You don't need saddles and bridles and stuff. You're riding just right. You're riding the highway of life, man. Coming home, that horse will get you there too. Just hang on, man. Just keep your old arse glued to its back, man. Gonna be all right here on this 11/11, this Wowzer Wednesday here on the Coyote Medicine Show. We got lots of medicine, lots more to go, baby. You want to stick around? You know, you never know what you might get here on the Coyote Medicine Show. We take a lot of strange twists and turns here, don't we? But it's always the two knowledge that makes your heart lodge, and the medicine for your heart and soul. So sweet, don't you know? Even though sometimes it has a slightly bitter edge, man. You know how them pharmaceuticals are. They don't want to make it too easy for you, man. But they do want you addicted. Well, now you're addicted to life, man. You notice that you've always had that addiction, and guess what? That overrules any other addiction, man. You're just in love with life. Your presence in yourself, your presence, the presence in life all around you. Because you can experience it as a living reality, baby. That's creator in motion, don't you know? Mother Heart and the oceans flow. Right there inside you, heart and soul. And blossoming, don't you know? So says Grandpa once again, man. As we take off flying and getting higher and higher. Ooh, baby, ooh, here's some royalty to help us along the way. Oh, would you say? Just love this beautiful old Wowzer Wednesday day. Give yourself a hug, will you? Hug is the drug of the day. Everybody hug, man. You know, gently. Gently. That's it. There, you're getting it, babies. Oh, you're catching on, John Jane. Out of the jungle once again, man. Ooh, but still swinging from vine to vine. I just find it divine, baby. Ooh, you rock.